Some claim that the age of a true gentleman is far behind us, but here at 284 Media, we still disagree. He may appear in different guises today, but the values and ideals that make him a gent still and will always stand. Welcome to Season 4 of The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, a show poised to help guide modern-day men into the best and brightest 21st century distinguished gentlemen. Don't worry, it's not always involved suits and bow ties, but real raw conversations that chronicle the life and legacy and journey of some of the most amazing men of all ages in the British Virgin Islands. As the creator and director, I want to thank you so much for your love and support for this amazing season. We are at the amazing Botea Lounge, proudly sponsoring this episode. Of course, we are waiting and anticipating the conversations of one of the most talented and hardworking Virgin Islanders, Mr. Coy Levons, hailing from Anegada. Let's go take a seat. As mentioned to you, we are at the amazing Botea Lounge in the Tortola Pier Park, who happens to be one of our prime sponsors for this segment. If you have not been to Botea before, you definitely need to come and check it out. Coy Levons is a name that is synonymous for greatness. One of our leading professionals within the Virgin Islands has lent his voice and his expertise in various assets, serving on numerous boards in the Virgin Islands. He hails all the way from Anegada, and we are honored to feature this husband, father, and key professional in the Virgin Islands. We talk fatherhood, being one of the leading professionals, some of the challenges that we have faced over the years, and of course, the legacy of family and business in the tourism aspect in the British Virgin Islands. We'll be right back after a quick commercial break. You're watching The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, Season 4. Let's go.
Introducing a show poised to help guide modern-day men into 21st century distinguished gentlemen. It doesn't always involve suits and bow ties, but raw, real-life lessons. I'm taking you outside in the field to share the journey of some of the BVI's the best and brightest men. From East End to West End, Virgin Gorda to Jos Van Dyke, not forgetting Anegada. Our Virgin Islands gentlemen are doing the damn thing. We are the movers and shakers of this generation. The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman. Season 4 by yours truly, Ron Grant. Raising a generation of greatness. Wednesdays at 8 p.m. on 284 Media.
That's out.
That's 6.
That's out.
With worldwide medical coverage and affordable premiums, we're like a home match that isn't played at your actual home. CG Insurance. Good like that.
My turn. Oh, come on, guys.
Viewers, welcome back. As promised, I am here with the man himself, the hardworking, very hardworking Coy Levons. Coy, thank you so much for accepting the invitation. Welcome to The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman.
It's a pleasure being here, Ron. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Cheers, my friend.
Viewers, as mentioned to you, we are at the amazing Botea Lounge in Tortola Pier Park, and they pulled out the stop for us. They even brought some popcorn. So if you have not ever been to Botea, do come down and check it out. Coy, as I mentioned in the introduction, you wear a lot of hats. Definitely wear a lot of hats. You have lent your voice and your expertise over the years to service in the British Virgin Islands community in various capacities. You come from a lineage of hardworking entrepreneurship. I want to start there. Your father, the one and only Aubrey Levons, has cemented his name in history across the Virgin Islands on a whole in regards to service. Tell me about your relationship with your dad and how that might have played a role in the man that you become.
Well, my relationship with my father kind of defined the man that I am.
Okay.
As a child, seeing my father struggle, and I use the word struggle loosely because struggle comes in all different shapes and forms, but to see how my dad had the ability to be resilient, had the ability to be courageous in the times of, in times that it was very difficult to achieve certain things. My dad, he kind of molded me. He always encouraged me. He says, son, go out and get that piece of paper. Go out into the world, become educated. And one of the things that always echo in my heart is the words that he always say to me. And he would always say to me, Koi, whatever you do in this life, make sure that you do it with a willing spirit and with a willing heart. And I think that those words echo very much into who I am, because the business that he was in was a service provision business. And he always used to say to me, son, provide the service and they'll put the money on the table. But don't ever chase after the money, because if you chase after the money, you lose the objective. So if there's anything that I can say to the service provision business is provide the best service that you can, and you will reap the benefits of your labor.
Amazing. You mentioned a word there to describe your dad in being a very resilient person. I have always thought to myself personally that Anegadians on a whole are by far what I would consider some of the most resilient people. Why do you think that is?
Anegadians are resilient because we always had to do a lot with a little.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. Anegadian, their core service at the time as a little boy coming up was basically fishing. And the tourism section of it came afterwards. But the thing that Anegadians had to do different from most people is Anegadians had to build without having title and deeds to their land.
Interesting.
So whereas an individual could have gone and leveraged a piece of property and take out the equity and invest in a business, Anegadians had to work, and whatever they work for, they actually had to put it into their business. So they built their businesses from the ground up because of the issues with the title and the deeds and so forth and so on. So Anegada people have always been resilient and self-reliant. We have boat builders. I remember Mr. Watson White. I remember Egbert Weekly. And I remember people who actually crafted and uphold the culture of Anegada. And these people today, in my humble opinion, are my heroes. Because to build your own boat and to sail across the water, you know, to see guys build their fish pots, to see houses built with pegs and rocks. And it's amazing to see hurricane would come and not destroy these houses, you know. So there's a lot of history, a lot of tradition that is tied up in Anegada. And some people look at it, you know, and say nature's last little secret, and I echo those sentiments the same way.
Nature's last little secret.
That's
amazing.
Right.
And speaking of that, the business which was built by both your parents still shines as one of the leading examples of the tourism product. Speak to the legacy that might have been started by mom and dad, but is now being continued by their offspring and their grandchildren.
Well, the legacy that started, I mean, it was a journey, and I would not speak of the legacy without speaking about the pioneers that make it happen. So I started my life on Virgin Gorda, and my dad initially had his business, the Big Bamboo. And my mom and my dad, my mom name is Diane Levons. So my mom and my dad kind of built the business, they built the brand. And then things was a bit bumpy on Virgin Gorda, and dad decided, listen, let me carry my business to Anegada, the Anegada Lobster, the branding, the identity as to who he was. So he went over to Anegada, but whilst on Anegada, the only other individual at the time that I can remember was Lowell Weekly. So you started to see a shift from fishing, and you started to see individuals going into the tourism aspect of the business. I remember Tony Smith had a boss named the Osprey, and these guys were like, the Osprey was the boss. Lowell Weekly at the time had the harbor, and he had the Anegada Reef. And then my father, he was building Big Bamboo. Then we had Mr. Wilfred Cricky, who came in on the other end with the Pomado Point experience. And then later on, we had Watson White that built some apartments and hotels. And then that was purchased by ABC. So now that you know that as the Anegada Beach Club.
Got you.
So yes, these are the people that help form who we are. Now, my father was into the provision of services in terms of, he had a scuba shop initially, he had a gift shop, he had his restaurant, his beach bar, and now he has his villas. And for us, we kind of grow up always being a part of that business.
Mm-hmm.
So like, for instance, my brother Greg, he has the boat, so he deals with most of the logistics. Then I have my sister, she works like with my mom in terms of dealing with the gift shop and dealing with the cottages. Then you have my brother Sion, who deals basically with the bar and all of the beverages. Myself, who help my mom with the paperwork and the administrative stuff. My brother Glenn, who deals with the grounds.
Mm-hmm.
And then my brother John, who basically help us in terms of entertainment or anything else.
Amazing.
That we do. So even though we are different arms, we are part of one body. And together, I think my dad and my mom has instilled enough in us for us to carry the business on in an amicable way. So in terms of his legacy, I can proudly say that RB Levons' legacy intact.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
I could say that proudly.
Well, congratulations to you and your siblings in making sure that it stays intact. You have just mentioned quite a bit about the history and heritage of Anegada, pretty much in a nutshell. Are you concerned that the last of Nature's Little Secret, the story that is, and the chronicling of the journey of prominent Anegadians, are you concerned that that's not being told? Those stories are not being told, or are they?
Well, I'll put it to you this way. Sometimes an example is the greatest teacher of certain things. Certain people say, don't tell me you love me. Show me that you love me. What I can say is that the history is still there, and I'm proud to see the younger generation. They're actually carrying it on. We may not have the boat builders,
right,
but we have the guys who are more into the environment.
Yes.
They look at the pond. We have the guys that are more into looking at the alternative energy in terms of sustainability and how best we could use more green than we can burn electricity and current. And we still have the iguanas that goes, the flamingos. So we have the core elements, but I think what is lacking is a direction. How do we preserve this whilst growing Anegada and maintaining Anegada's natural aura in of itself? Then to me, that is where the crux of the matter is. Okay. Whatever we do on Anegada, Anegada itself is the product. So whatever structure is in place, it must, as for want of a better word, it must coexist with what Anegada is.
Understood.
Yeah.
When you look at your legacy now, that is your father, how many children?
My dad has 6 of us.
And you in particular?
Me, I have 4 kids.
Okay, so Coy Levons, the father, and 4 kids. What exactly, when you think of an ideal Virgin Islands, what does, in the best of circumstances, an ideal Virgin Islands look like to you from your vantage point that you would want for your children who are growing up?
I would want a Virgin Islands where my children could see their identity in the country that they're living in. And your identity is not limited to where you're from, but your identity is limited to who you are as an individual. You want peace. You want the ability to be able to make your decision without retribution. You want the ability to contribute to your society. You want the ability to be a person that grows with your community. And you also want to be someone that treats people the way that you want to be treated. And even though the BVI does not provide an export of anything, I think that what we need to be good at is our customer service. And if we can provide that service, that is our tradition, that is a part of who we are. And there is no other experience in the world than when someone actually does something and it impacts the heart. That is a memory that lives on. And I think that is where we have to get back to. Allow customers to say, oh my God, the experience was the most beautiful experience I've ever experienced in the BVI. So as a word of encouragement as a BVI lander, I think that that's one of the things that I would want to see preserved in our country, the way that we treat each other. And in order for us to be able to preserve that, you and I have to be able to live amongst ourselves good before we can treat the individual
I totally agree.
who's our customer, our client, our friend.
Yeah,
you know?
we have to do it first.
We have to do it first.
I could not agree with you more.
Yeah.
When you look at your 4 kids, what do you most enjoy about being a father?
I most enjoy looking in their faces and seeing myself being reproduced into this world. And
Nice.
And I often look at them, and then I also point out who I am, because I recognize that a lot of the things that I used to do as a child, I watch my children come back and do it. You know, so it's amazing to see how the cycle is. But most importantly, I love the fact that my kids, they live good with each other.
Okay.
Every kid fight, they live very good with each other, and I love the fact that they're loving children. I can look and I can see me and my wife inside of them.
Beautiful.
And to see that we could create what we are love, you know. So
amazing.
Yeah, for me that's amazing.
I had a instance this week. Actually, it's funny that you talked about looking at your kids and seeing yourself in them.
Yeah.
My son is going to be 2, but he is full of a personality. And I was having a conversation with him, and I'm saying, Kent, he kept saying, Papa, 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 which is his grandfather. And he has a issue now when my father picks him up from school. But if for whatever reason he is unable to pick him up, and whether my wife or my mother go and pick him up, is a backing out. And you should see him literally, Papa, Papa, Papa. He's literally quarreling. And we were having a conversation the other day, and he throwing up his hands, and I'm like, Kent, well, you don't have to do that. What are you throwing up your hands for? We're just talking. And my wife looked at me and said, I wonder where he got that from.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So it's funny that we're able to see ourselves in, and from that very early age, personalities and character is already being morphed and created based on the 2 beautiful people that have made these individuals.
Correct.
As I mentioned earlier, you have worn a lot of hats, and you have selflessly, and when I use the word selflessly, I mean it because there's no amount of money that could be received for some of our professionals who work day in and day out to represent the Virgin Islands and sit on boards and try to contribute significantly to our growth and development. And you are one of the persons who have done that very eloquently and selflessly. What are you up to these days in regards to service?
Well, as you know, I used to work at the Airport Authority, and then I transitioned now to being the Director of Civil Aviation, which is more regulatory in nature. So what we're trying to do now is we're trying to build the department. So the department is in its embryonic stages, and we're just trying to facilitate growth by putting certain regulatory measures in place. We work along with Air Safety Support International, which is ASI.
Okay.
The other regulators for BVI, but in order for us to be able to transition, we have to meet certain international standards. So in terms of that, that's what I'm doing now. The only other board that I sit on now is the Constitutional Committee.
Review Committee,
Review Committee. So we're doing that now. I'm looking forward to having interactive discussions with the citizens, because at the end of the day, it is not my constitution or the 16 members that has been appointed, but it is our constitution, and we together have to build it. And I think that's where the key is for all of us.
Agreed.
This is our country. So we need to move away from the concept of individuality and realize that, listen, when one fall, all fall. When one stand up, all stand up. And I think we have an opportune time now for us to be able to stand together and develop the country that we want to see as local people.
I agree with you. What does it mean for you to have been selected to sit on the Constitutional Review Committee?
It means a lot to me, because I'm one of those guys who believe that you build what you have. You don't try to lift another concept from another country and think that it would work in your country. So when I look at Anigada, I see Jas Van Dyke, I see Vorjengard, I see the business community, then the question that lends itself to me is, well, Koi, if we have those things, why shouldn't that community, along with the business owners and the local people, fashion and form a strategy to see where their particular country want to go? So how can we align the Constitution to facilitate that?
Right.
And that's the kind of discussion that we need to be having, not discussions arguing about what need not to be changed, but discussions geared towards putting us in the right direction and making what we have work for us as BV Islanders.
Amazing. Hindsight being 2020, I believe that the best is always yet to come.
Yeah.
And we are constantly working and evolving and essentially, at least for me, always striving to be the best version of myself. Every opportunity that I get. What's next for Koi?
Well, what's next for Koi is Koi also would like to be a better version of himself. What's next for me is really and truly is I need to find a way to take all this passion and to put it to use.
Okay.
You know? I always have a love for my country. A lot of people talk about politics, but that's something that I've considered, but I also consider the situation that we're in and the situation that, in my humble opinion, politics has put us in also. So for me, right now, it's just about growth and development.
Okay.
Me being a better person, me being a better father, me being a better friend, me being a better individual as the people. And I think once I get to that point in my life, then the sky's the limit.
Beautiful.
Because at least I would have the tools to sustain anything that comes my way.
You mentioned about the consideration of politics, and the truth is we are at a very critical and pivotal point.
Yeah.
If you were given the opportunity, if the people said, Koi, yes, we would like you to, make a step and represent us, is that something, while you might have thought about it in this juncture, is it something that you would seriously consider and perhaps move towards, if you're willing to speak?
No, I'll be honest with you. First and foremost, the way that my process operates is I would have to make sure that whatever decision I make, that my house and my home and my family is the sole and most important thing for me. I have to make sure that my foundation is established properly. So if my foundation is established properly, I would look at politics, you know. I mean, excuse me. I question it a lot.
Okay.
Because I'll be honest with you, Ron, and a lot of people may not like to hear this, but politics have us in the situation that we are now, my friend. And,
fair enough.
And the question is, for me now, should I be in a position where we could contribute to help fixing our country, or should we go back down the political lane now and have to go through all of the politics and the bureaucracy to get that fixture done? And the question you're asking me is so loaded.
It is a loaded question.
It's a loaded question, and I don't really want to come on the airwaves and
publicly,
and publicly give people an impression that well, I want to run.
Because it's not that easy for you.
It's not that easy for me. Yes, I may have the passion and I have the desire and the drive to do it, but there are certain fundamentals that have to be in place in order for me to commit myself to a journey like that.
That is fair enough. One of the things, though, that I got very much from your statement is that for a very long time we've been doing the same thing and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
And our way of not only delivering of services in the political arena, we have to totally revamp because our country relies on it, especially at this pivotal point. So I appreciate your honesty in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, Ron, you have to accept the reality that is before us. Our reality is before us. And we shouldn't be playing the blame game.
Yes.
We live in a society where we have expatriate community that have access to foreign investment, that have access to links. Why don't we come together as intellectual people, BV Islanders? Let us sit down and create a plan and a strategy to get us out of the situation that we're in. So for me, I think that this is the opportune time that Virgin Islanders need to hold them hand together and say, listen, let's go. There's been a lot of talk about who's responsible for what. No, at the end of the day, a country is not 15 elected people.
Right.
A country is all of us. And as I said before, when one fall down, all fall down. The mentality of you thinking that you escape and the next man fall, to me is a crab in a barrel mentality.
It is.
And I think that we need to get to the point now where, listen, let's fix our country. And the most beautiful thing about it is the COI has identified our vulnerabilities.
Absolutely.
And all we have to do is put the mitigations in place, my friend, create a plan, and trust God for everything after that.
Fair enough. Koi, I thank you so much for your honesty and authenticity. As always, you've never shied away from being your authentic self and giving of your opinions. You are by far, that's why obviously you're here, one of our leading distinguished gentlemen. Many persons in our community see you as that in various capacities, in not only the way you carry yourself, but your true understanding of self. And as you mentioned, continuously wanting to be the best version of yourself. We commend you, we congratulate you, and we thank you for your contributions to this place that you call home and that you love so much.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely. It's always
Appreciate
a pleasure.
it. All right.
Viewers, as mentioned, I am here at Botea at the Tortola Pier Park, and I've been chopping it up with the man himself, Koi Levons, of course, one of our featured best and brightest of the Art of a Distinguished Gentleman in Season 4. It's been an amazing journey, and I want to thank you guys so much for sticking with us. I'll see you next week. Take care.
The wait is over. CCT Fire is here. Experience ultra-fast downloads, seamless streaming, and even more reliable connectivity on an all-new fire-blazing super-fast CCT Fiber network. CCT Fire. Bring it home and upgrade today.
Yo, everything good there?
Why? This thing got me one way that day.
What you mean?
Ever since I hook up with this thing, can't eat, I can't sleep. This is the first thing I touch it when I reach home.
What you really? Hey, this thing like you know.
Dad, this thing got me staying home. Keeping out that trouble me.
Wow. What your name is?
Shit. I talking about my CCT life.
Don't worry about missing your favorite series, sports, news, and local programming. Come to CCT today and sign up for CCT Live to access over 80 channels. CCT Live. Bring it home.
1 month free trial turn into 5. 5 months turn into, well, you know I hustle. I watching ball. I been watching football. Dad, Nickelodeon, Paw Patrol. I am hooked. Hook, I tell you.
Father Jesus, that line here long like church service.
Alright, we enjoy the rest of it. Next customer line, please. Wait, hold on a second.
Yes, Sonny boy, come, yes, Sonny.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sonny boy. Hold on. You must have put fun topic.
It's okay, I'll take care of it.
What? No man to take care.
How may I assist you?
Yes.
You want top of power?
You want top of power?
Join the prepaid party with CCT and enjoy more affordable data plans, more top-up promotions, more savings with hero bundles, and more value for your money each and every Tuesday with Top Up Turn Up Tuesday. Visit a CCT store today or anywhere CCT Top Up is sold and top up your phone.
5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. You want top of power?
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.
Brilliant Hands and Minds tutoring services, one-on-one tutorials in math and English, intense homework assistance, academic enrichment, school projects, effective communication and public speaking development, sign language for adults and children on Saturdays only. Registered with the Virgin Islands High School Certificate Program, Brilliant Hands and Minds can help you too. Offering intense curriculum-based training to help you or your loved ones get their high school diploma. It's time to make your family's education a #1 priority. Hurry, space is limited. Brilliant Hands and Minds Learning Center. We are the trained education